So in this subject of nanotechnology and surface engineering, so far we have discussed about scanning electron microscope. In that one, we have discussed that how that scanning electron microscope (SEM) is different from optical microscope or light microscope. Then we discuss about the various components of scanning electron microscope. We also talked about the principle and working of scanning electron microscope. And then we also studied that how the image will be produced by collecting various electrons like backscatter electrons, Auger electrons, X-ray electrons. Okay, so all these electrons are uh, absorbed, collected, and through that the image is generated, and that is how the scanning electron microscope is work. And that scanning electron microscope, which is one of the most important tool which is been employed to nanotechnology nowadays. Similarly, one other important tool for characterizing of the material, which is known as a transmission electron microscope, TEM. Initially, what we have discussed is a scanning electron microscope, and today what we are going to discuss, that is the transmission electron microscope, TEM. So transmission electron microscopy is the original form of electron microscopy. Okay, it is a one kind of a electron microscopy and analogous to the optical microscope. It can achieve a resolution of 0.1 nanometer. Okay, so this is very low resolution that we can that we cannot easily see by the naked eye. Okay, but that such a very low resolution of 0.1 nanometer which can be achieved by this transmission electron microscope. Okay, and that is the 1,000 times better which can be reached by the light microscope. Okay, so that's why the light microscope has a limitation that it cannot go in depth like this. Okay, 0.1 nanometer. But when we are going to uh, study very in depth and we want a resolution of 0.1 nanometer, in that case we can use a transmission electron microscope. The beam of electron passes through the specimen and analyze the internal structure of the specimen in the form of image. Okay, so that is very important thing. The electron beam maybe passes through the specimen and analyze the internal structure of the specimen, and that will give it in the form of an image. So it is very important. And the electron has the poor penetration capability and gets absorbed in the thick specimen. Electron has a poor penetration capacity, so it may get absorbed in a thick specimen, and that is why the thickness of the specimen should not be more than a few hundred Armstrong. So very thin specimen that we have to prepare for a transmission electron microscope, and that is the very crucial and tedious job into the transmission electron microscope to prepare the specimen, such a thin specimen. Okay, few hundred Armstrong. Okay, and we know that 1 angstrom is equal to 10 to the power minus 10 meter, so very small dimension, and such a small sample we have to prepare for a transmission electron microscope. So that's why it is one of the very important part to how to prepare the specimen for a transmission electron microscope. And however, sometimes thickened sample are used in a high voltage electron microscope. Okay? So if we use a thick sample, in that case we have to go for a high electron microscopy, high voltage electron microscopy. So in that case, the capability of that machine that should be higher, that is required higher, it require higher voltage. But in general, we use a thin specimen. In that way, we require a low voltage, okay, so that we can easily handle that microscope. As well as the cost is also a parameter in high voltage electron microscopy, okay. So that's why depends upon the requirement, we can go for the any kind of a electron microscope. Now the components of the transmission electron microscope. So it has generally three components. First one is a electron gun, which consists or which produce an which is produce the electron beam, and it has a condenser system which focus the beam onto the sample. So first important component is a electron gun. Now here the component that you find in the TEM, which is the somewhat similar that what we have already discussed in scanning electron microscope. In that scanning electron microscope we have electron gun. The same way we have a electron gun over here, because both the TEM and SEM that works on a electron microscopy. And when it is works on a electron microscopy, the first and important step is that we have to generate or produce electron beam. And to produce that electron beam, what we require? We require electron gun. That's why you find the electron gun in both the TEM as well as in SEM. So first an important component is the electron gun, which produce electron beam, and the condenser system that will focus the beam on the object. Second, the image producing system, which consists of the objective lenses, movable specimen stage, objectives, intermediate, and projector lens. And what it will do, which focus the electrons passing through the specimen to form a real highly magnified image. Okay, so whatever the beams which is focused on a object, now that beam will pass through that object, and then we have this objective lens. We have to focus that beam on a specimen. We have a movable stage, okay, this objective, intermediate, and projector lens. What it will do, they will collect and form a real and high magnified image. So this is the image producing system. And then third is a image recording system, because whatever be the uh, output that we get in the image producing system, that will be some form of a electrons. But now that electrons that must be converted into some image form, because our eye can understand the form of image, and that's why it is required to convert them into some recording system. So what it will do, what image recording system will do, it will convert the electron image into some preferable or perceptible to the human eye. The image recording system usually consists of a fluorescent screen for viewing and focusing the image, and a digital CCD camera for permanent record. So there may be two different viewing option. One is a fluorescent screen, and second one is a CCD camera, digital CCD camera. So by through this we can easily record and get the image. And in addition, a vacuum system consists of pump and their associated gauge and valves, and the power supplies are required. Okay, so all this, as we talked earlier, that the whole system that will be under vacuum, as we have already studied in SEM. Why? Because the electron beam that should not be deflected, or it should not be affected by the environment or environment particles, environment dust. Okay, so that's why to isolate it, we require a vacuum system. And when we have a vacuum system, to operate it, we require a pump, okay, we require gauges, valves, and we also require power. Okay, so these are the components of a transmission electron microscope. Electron gun, second image producing system, third electron recording system, image recording system. And with that one, what we require? We require a vacuum system. And in that vacuum system, we have a vacuum pump, we have a gauges, valves, power supplies, all that. So these are the components of the TEM. Now, this is the diagram of a transmission electron microscope. So now you can see that here, this is the real image of this transmission electron microscope, and this is the sectional view, cut sectional view of this transmission electron microscope. So first, as we have seen here, this is the electron source. Electron source means in that one we have an electron gun here. Okay, so this topmost portion which is having a electron gun. Then here this one are the condenser lenses. So in this portion we have condenser lenses. Then we have a sample here. Okay, so the sample may be somewhat over here, and this is the goniometer. This one is the goniometer. Same way here, this is the goniometer. After that, we have a objective lens, objective apparatus, aperture, and this one is known as a projector lenses. Okay, so that projector lenses that will be fixed here. Then we have this viewing screen. Okay, so here this one is the viewing screen. In that one we have some fluorescent screen, or we have a CCD camera fitted over here, so that from that CCD camera it is attached to the computer, so that we can have a image like this. So this is how the various components of the transmission electron microscope is fixed. So in this one you see the difference that in transmission electron microscope the specimen, the sample is spaced in the center. So the electrons that will be generated, that will be passed through that condenser lenses, and it will be focused to the sample, and then from that sample the electron is transmitted and it will be go to the objective lens, and then it will be recorded. While in scanning electron microscope it is different. In that one we have the electron source at the top, it is the same thing. The condenser lens is at here, this is also the same, but here we have an objective lens in the center, and then at the bottom we have a sample, and in that sample chamber we fix all the electron detectors like backscatter electrons detector, X-ray detector, okay, secondary electron detector. So all these detectors which are placed into the sample specimen, and all that various electrons that will be absorbed and it will be converted into some form of image. So in that one, whatever the reflected electrons that will be considered, while here whatever the transmitted electron, here whatever be the transmitted electron that will be considered for the image producing system. That's why it is known as a transmission electron microscope. Okay, that's why it is known as a transmission electron microscope, because it will transmit the electrons, and whatever the transmitted electron that is used to form a image. While in scanning electron microscope, whatever be the reflected or deflected electrons, okay, like backscatter electrons, secondary electrons, X-rays, Auger electrons, and that will be detected, and then it will be used to convert the electron. Okay, so that is the difference between the TEM and SEM. Both are working on the principle of electron microscopy, but the way the electrons are used, that is totally different in both the case. Okay, and transmission electron microscopy, in that one we require a very thin object. Why? Because we require to transmit that electrons from the object. If it is a thick, then the electron will be absorbed by the specimen, and we are not getting any transmitted electron. And that's why this is the important thing in transmission electron microscope, to make a very thin specimen. So these are the components of the transmission electron microscope. Here this is the light source, these are the condenser lenses, this is the objective lens, means a sample. Then we have a image producing system below the specimen. So one by one we are going to discuss about the components of the transmission electron microscope. So first, electron gun, or first is the illumination system. Illumination system, in that one we have electron gun and condenser lenses. So here we have this electron gun and condenser lenses. So this portion, that what we are going to discuss first. The source of electrons, the cathode, is heated a sharply pointed rod shaped lanthanum hexaboride. So in this one we are using a lanthanum hexaboride filament, while in previous case in scanning electron microscope, generally we use a tungsten filament. Okay, the tungsten filament which are very cheap and easy to handle. But this lanthanum boride, lanthanum hexaboride, which is somewhat costlier and difficult to handle, but it will give us a bright image, and that's why in transmission electron microscope we use a lanthanum hexaboride pointed shaped electron as a cathode. The filament is surrounded by a control grid called as a Van Helst cylinder. Okay, so what is the use of Van Helst cylinder? We have already discussed in a scanning electron microscope. The same Van Helst cylinder is used over here, with a central aperture arranged on the axis of the column. Okay, with a central aperture arranged at the axis of the column. The apex of the cathode is arranged to lie at or just above or below this aperture. Okay, so this aperture is fixed such a way that the or according to that aperture, the cathode is arranged such a way that it will just lie above or below of this aperture. Then the cathode and control grids are at the negative potential. Why? Because we have to generate electrons. Okay, so generally these electrons which is having a negative charge, that's why they have a negative potential equal to the desired accelerating voltage, and are insulated from the rest of the instrument. They should be insulated from the rest of the instrument. The final electrode of the electron gun is the anode, which takes the form of a disc with a axial hole. Okay, so here in this one, here at the center we have a cathode, anode. Okay, and that anode has a central hole. So through that central hole, the electron beam that will be passed. Okay, and whatever the electrons leaves the cathode, that will be accelerated towards the anode. Why? Because anode is a positive charge. So whatever but the negative charge electron, that will be accelerated because of this positive charge anode. So the speed or the acceleration of the electron, that will be increased, and the control and the alignment of the electron gun are critical in ensuring satisfactory operation. So it is very important to control that acceleration and the focus of the electron, and for that one we require a proper control and alignment of the electron gun. And if it is properly controlled and aligned, then the transmission electron microscope, that will give us a satisfactory operation. Okay, so this is the use of a electron gun. The electron gun will produce the electron, as well as it will accelerate the electron and pass a useful or number of electrons through that hole of a anode, and it will be properly controlled and aligned. After that electron gun, we have a condenser lens system. Okay, so this is the electron gun, and then we have a condenser lens system. Okay, so this is the condenser lens system. The intensity and angular aperture of the beam are controlled by the condenser lens system between the gun and the specimen. Okay, so generally the condenser system is in between the gun and the specimen. And what is the use of the condenser? That what we have already seen in the SEM, the same work which is also done by the condenser lenses in transmission electron microscope. They will, okay, a single lens may be used to converge the beam onto the object. What the condenser will do, it will reduce the diameter of the electron beam and focus it on a specific spot. Okay, so suppose this is the electron beam and here we have a condenser. So what condenser will do, it will reduce the diameter of the beam and focus it on a particular spot. Okay, so this is the use of the condenser lens. So in that case we can use a single lens or we can use a double condenser lens, depends upon the requirement. And if the first lens is strong, in this one if we use a double condenser lens, in that one the first lens is strong and produce a reduced image of the source, which is then imaged by the secondary lens on the object. Okay, so this is how we use a double condenser lenses. We put a very strong condenser lens first so that it will drastically reduce the source, and then we use the secondary lens so that it will exactly locate that onto the object. The use of small spot, okay, so that is important. The use of small spot size minimize disturbance in the specimen due to the heating and radiation. Okay, and that's why it is important to produce a small spot. And that small spot means we are reducing drastically this image beam and it will reach to the specimen. Okay, and it will be spotted on a very narrow part of the specimen, so that whatever be the heating and irradiation effect into the specimen, that can be reduced, and that is the use of a condenser lens. Then second is the image producing system. First is the illumination system, okay, or as we talked earlier, that is the electron gun. So that what we have discussed. Now second is the image producing system. Okay, so in image producing system we have objective lenses and projector lenses. So the specimen grid is carried in a small holder in a movable specimen stage. Okay, so here this specimen that will be fixed, that will be put on a movable specimen holder so that we can adjust the specimen according to the location of the concentrated beam. Okay, this beam here you can see that electron beam which will be concentrated at a particular point. Okay, so we have to adjust the specimen such a way that we can just take the specimen at the desired position where the electron beams are concentrated, and to move that we require a movable specimen chamber. So here we have a movable specimen stage. The objective lens is usually of short focal length. Objective lens is usually of a short focal length and produce a real intermediate image. What it will produce? it will produce a real intermediate image that is further magnified by the projector lens. So initial image is produced by the objective lens, and we require a magnified image, so that magnified image is produced by the projector lens. So these are the use of these two lens. Objective lens that will initially produce a uh, intermediate real image, and that intermediate image that will be magnified by the projector lens. A single projector lens may provide a range of magnification of 5 gem 1. Okay, so here this is the capability of this uh, projector lens. And by the use of the interchangeable pole piece in the projector, a wide range of magnification can be obtained. Okay, so by interchanging the poles, we can get a wide range of magnification, the very higher magnification which can be achieved by using a projector lens. And in modern instrument employs two projector lens, one called as a intermediate lens to permit a greater range of magnification and to provide a greater overall magnification without a commensurate increase in the physical length of the column of the microscope. So in this case we use a two projector lens nowadays, one that will produce a intermediate image, and then it will permit a greater range of magnification. Why TEM? Generally, why we use the TEM? Because we require a large magnification of a very small part, and when we have a very small part and we require its image, we require a large magnification, and that large magnification which is provided by the objective uh, by the projector lens. For image stability and brightness, the microscope is often operated to give a final magnification of up to, you can see that this is very high. Okay, so 1000 to 2,50,000 x on the screen. So that is very big size. Okay, very big magnification that we can see on the screen. If a higher final magnification is required, it may be obtained by a photographic or digital enlargement. So generally we use a photographic or digital enlargement to get a higher final magnification of the image. The quality of the final image in the electron microscope that depends largely upon the accuracy of the various mechanical and electrical adjustment with which the various lenses are aligned to one another to the illuminating system. Okay, so that's why this is important to get a higher magnification. All these condenser lenses and the objective lenses that must be aligned with each other, so that we can generate a higher magnification, because there is no much more deflection of the electrons, and that will produce a high magnified image. And that's why it is very important, or we have to adjust the that condenser lenses and movable lenses as well as the specimen by moving it mechanically or electrically such a way that all this beam that will be aligned with each other, so that it will give us a magnified image. And at the same time, the quality of the image which is also improved. The lenses require power supply of high degree of stability. Okay, the the lenses, condenser lenses as well as objective lenses, it require a power supply of higher degree of stability. The fluctuation of the power is not tolerated. We have to provide a stable power supply. For the highest standard of resolution, electronic stabilization better than 1 part of a million is necessary. Okay, so what we require, electron stabilization to better than 1 part of the million is necessary. So this is how the stabilization of electron is required. Electrons is required. That 1 part of the million means it is a very highly stable power supply is required, and for that one it will provided with a high control stabilizers, and the control of the modern electron microscope is carried out by the computer, and dedicated software is readily available for the transmission electron microscope. So generally we control it by the computer, and we have a particular software to operate it. The TEM provides information in the form of a variation of electron intensity in the image. So how we can get the image? By the variations in the electron intensity. The electron image is monochromatic and must be made visible to the eye. Okay, so generally whatever the electron image we get, that is monochromatic, and that cannot be uh, visible to our eye. So what we require, so so that we have to allow the electrons to fall on the fluorescent screen fitted at the base of the microscope column. Okay, so this is one option how we can get the electron image convert into the image which can be visible to the eye, or by capturing the image digitally for displaying on a computer. Okay, so this is the second option. We can capture that image, electron image, and convert that into a image that can be displayed on a computer, and that computer image that will be visible to the human eye. So these are the two probable option through which this electron image that will be converted into the image that will be visible to the eye. First is the fluorescent screen, and second one is a digital CCD cameras. And computer image are stored in a format such as TIFF as well as JPG. JPG, that is the standard image format that we know. So whatever the image which is generated, that will be TIFF or a JPG image. So this is the image translation system. This is the image translation system. Okay, so these are the three components and their detail for the transmission electron microscope. First is the illumination system. So this is the illuminating system. This one is the illuminating system. Okay. Then image producing system. So this all these object condenser lenses. Sorry, this is the illuminating system. Then this one is the image producing system, and finally we have this one. All these are considered as a image translation system. We have a fluorescent screen or a digital camera to get the image. So these are the components of the transmission electron microscope. Now we will see that how the transmission electron microscope works. So the TM involve a high voltage electron beam emitted from the filament by electrical heating. Okay, so generally we that electrons are generated by the electrical heating. The shaft of electron beam drawn towards an anode and passes through an aperture. Okay, so anode, we know that it is the positively charged, and in that one we have a center hole. So through that central hole the electron beams will be drawn, and it will be passing through that aperture. Then the beam traverses the aperture, and then next moves through an electromagnetic condenser. So now all these electrons that will be passes through the electromagnetic condenser, then it will be passing through the objective, then it will be passing through the intermediate and projector lenses. Then the focused electron beam transmitted through a very thin specimen. Very thin specimen. The specimen generally we have 50 nanometer size. It is a semi-transparent for electrons and carries information about the structure of the specimen. Okay, so the specimen that what we have to select, that is very important here, because what it is very thin. You can see that 50 nanometer, only 50 nanometer. It is approximately 50 nanometer means, so we have to choose the part of the specimen such a way that only 50 nanometer size that will reflect or that will carry the information of the whole structure. And that's why it is important to choose a proper specimen into the transmission electron microscope. If you use a wrong specimen and do the transmission electron microscope, it will give you a wrong information about the whole structure. That's why we have to select the specimen such a way that it will give the information about the whole structure, and it should be a semi-transparent so that the electrons can easily transmitted through that specimen. Then the part of the beam absorbed, scattered and transmitted through objective apertures and projected by a projector lens after corrected by intermediate lens on a fluorescent screen. Okay, so this is the same what we have seen that here, all this one, whatever the transmitted electron that will be comes into this projector lenses, and then it will be collected into that uh, fluorescent screen or a camera. So the whatever the scattered and transmitted electrons that will be passing through that projector's lenses, and it will be collected onto the fluorescent screen. The image is observed with the help of a optical binocular attached to its viewing window. Okay, so that is the thing that we can see, that we can observe it by the binocular, optical binocular attached with that window. The spatial variation in the image is then magnified by a series of magnetic lenses until it is recorded by the hitting a fluorescent screen or a sensitive uh, sensor such as CCD cameras. Okay, so we have to do the mechanical adjustment such that a clear image which is not recorded on a fluorescent screen as well as on a CCD camera. And for that one, we have to move the specimen. Okay, so here if you see in this diagram, if you not get a proper image on the computer or on the fluorescent screen, so we have to adjust the specimen here, and the specimen which can be easily adjusted by a mechanical movement. Okay, so there are certain mechanical and electrical movements are available, so that we can adjust that and we can get a image, proper magnified image. TM electron scattering rather than differences in absorbance produce contrast into the image. Okay, so how here this works, the TM electron scattering rather than differences. TM electron scattering and differences. Okay, it is important in absorbance produce contrast into the image. Okay, so that how this contrast into the image, there are some dark field and there are some light field. Okay, so if you see here in this image, here you can see there are some dark spot and remaining is a dark light. So this contrast, how this contrast is produced into the image, for that one this is important, that how the electrons being scattered and how it will be differences, and based on that the electrons are absorbed and we can absorb a contrast into the image, and scattering result form an interaction between the specimen atom and electrons of the illuminating beam. Okay, so this is the use of a scattering. Okay, the scattering results the interaction between the specimen atom and electron of the illuminating beams, and the negative charge electron clouds around atomic nuclei scatter electrons by the repelling them. Okay, so this is the use of a negative charge electron cloud. It will uh, uh, that cloud will scatter electrons by the repelling them around the atom nuclei, and this effect increase the electron passes closer to the specimen atoms, so that the electron that will pass very close to the specimen, and nuclei of high atomic number, as in atom of heavy metals such as lead and uranium, causes a wide scattering, and due to that there is a large scattering into the heavy metals. And transmission electron microscope produce a two-dimensional black and white image. Okay, so that is important. It will generate a two-dimensional black and white. It will not going to give us a depth. Okay, it will only a two-dimensional image, but it will be in the form of a black and white, so that we can have some dark portion and we can have some light portion. The TM can easily resolve structure such as ribosome, okay, microtubules, okay, microfilament, and large molecules such as proteins. Okay, so it will be used in biological form also. And even images of individual heavy metals atom have been produced under the special operating conditions. Okay, so even we can easily use it for a heavy metals. Okay, so this TM microscope will be used in varieties of the area, like in biological form, in metallic form. Even we can have a thin and heavy metals we can easily uh, perform into the transparent electron microscope, and we can generate a image. So this is how electron microscope will work. Okay, so what are the advantage, limitation, application of the transparent electron microscope, and how it will be different from optical microscope, that we will discuss in our next lecture.